Mr. Speaker, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Honorable Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, Isambulavan Naka Namaste, and a very good day to you all. Mr. Speaker, 20th November 2019 marks the first anniversary of my maiden speech for the current term as elected member of this August House. It is an honor to stand before my colleagues today in this August House and deliver my response to a statement delivered by His Excellency, the President of Fiji, Major General retired George Condotte, while addressing the opening of 2019-2020 Parliament session on 12th of November 2019. Mr. Speaker, I wish to thank our President, His Excellency Major General retired George Condotte, for his most gracious speech during the opening of the 2019-2020 Parliament session. From the outset, I would like to applaud His Excellency for the address, its noticeable clarity of purpose, the re-emphasis on the importance of our Constitution, calling out actions from members of this august House and the nation of Fiji to translate it to good and quality practices. His Excellency has most rightly set a righteous platform for us to deliberate on issues important to all Fijians for the 2019-2020 Parliament session. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency the President has so eloquently laid the expectations for the next parliamentary year. His Excellency the President has spoken with great warmth and great generosity about Fiji, its prospects, the Fijian people, about the links that bind us, the values and traditions that we share, the history we have experienced together. Mr. Speaker, but more than that, he spoke to us not just about relationships of the past, but relationships of the future. And I think that was what made his address so inspirational. Mr. Speaker, in this prosaic world, where there are as many threats as opportunities, the eloquence of His Excellency the President's address has reminded us of the importance of being one, together to face economic, climate, or any challenge out there with common principles and with a shared purpose. Mr. Speaker, all of us in this august House are the hope of our people. This week, while we mark the occasion of official opening of the Parliament for 2019-2020 session, we must all note the presumption that there is so much to be done, so much to be accomplished, and yet little time to waste. Mr. Speaker, I wish to congratulate each member of this august House on the job well done during the 2018-2019 Parliament session. I would like to reiterate the call made by His Excellency the President as member of the Parliament. Whatever our stripes, allegiance may be, the bottom line is we need to be accessible, relevant, and real. We need to continue presenting the voices and needs of all Fijians. We need to stand for united Fiji. In this vociferous world, we need to speak out with one voice. There should be no doubt that our goal in these sittings, in this august House, must be to advance the interests of all Fijians ahead of any self-interest. Mr. Speaker, I would like to further reiterate His Excellency's address that no matter where one sits in this august House, your presence is a sign of strength, positive step towards productive contestation of ideas and policies, such policies that have prosperity for all Fijians at its core. Mr. Speaker, to be effective, we need to ensure that we uphold the values of this august House and debate in a manner that provides hope and clarity to all Fijians. We need to speak in the national interest than in interest of self or party. We need to be a beacon from where all Fijians can take reference with confidence when addressing and understanding issues that will matter greatly for our collective well-being. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for maintaining decorum in this House. During debates, we may be carried away. You have always maintained the integrity of the House. I thank you for helping us uphold the honor and dignity of this House in the way we conduct our proceedings. I thank you for facilitating good, free-flowing debate where the desired outcome is better for policies and laws. Mr. Speaker, your humbleness doesn't allow you to understand that you are indeed a role model for many of our youths in the country. I want to thank you for being impartial, fair, and poor. The Speaker, I agree with His Excellency the President that in these 6 short years since the launch of our 2030 Constitution, we undoubtedly have done well socio-economically. We have enjoyed a decade of economic growth. Our social policies have helped many Fijians better their lives. The Speaker said the prosperity of a society cannot be measured only in monetary terms. It is first and foremost measured by the citizens' safety, inclusiveness, and equal opportunities. I'm proud to say we are on the right course to achieve this. The Speaker thanks to our Constitution that we are no longer strangers in our own country. We are no longer victims of discriminatory notions of national identity. We have equal access to education and economic prospects. Our success is not determined by race, religion, ethnicity, color, skin, not by wealth, privilege, or status, but by content of one's character, one's ability, and merit. The Speaker said our Constitution is a beacon light, hope for many Fijians who have been passed in flames of withering injustice in the past. The Speaker said in today's modern state, citizenship indicates a symbolic reality of equality of its members. It connotes rights and duties. It signifies a sense of identity and implies a variety of civic virtues that are necessary for social cohesion. At the same time, equal citizenry stands as the most important determining element of membership in a political community. The Speaker said our Constitution provides for all of this, and we should be proud of our Constitution, proud to be a Fijian. The Speaker said, despite this, a dangerous cocktail of willful ignorance, racism and bigotry spewed day in, day out by losers who have nothing else better to do than brewing hatred amongst Fijians. Just on Monday, Honorable Kurunani said Honorable PM is getting $3,000 as daily allowance. No one is getting that kind of daily allowance. That's an utter lie. All this is said is a sad reminder that hatred and animosity still fester, and there are some elements in our society who are willing to consciously impact the tenuous and fragile nature of racial harmony in pursuit of self-betterment, consciously using their stature and position to poison the minds of the youth, risking incitement of most serious kinds of hatred and intolerance amongst us Fijians. Mr. Speaker said, often shielded by patriotic rhetoric, they try to divide us. The views are fundamentally anti-democratic. True patriots embrace fairness, equality and liberty and respect fellow citizens. One such true patriot is our Honourable Prime Minister. The Speaker said, we have a valiant leader as our Prime Minister. He has a vision for a climate resilient, socially inclusive and economically prosperous Fiji. He has over the years embarked on citizen building, that is clarifying and protecting the rights and obligations of all Fijians as the base of social capital for wider agendas of nation building. The Speaker said, our Honourable Prime Minister is an example to those leaders whose deeds frequently fail to match the high tone of their words. Those who fall short of leadership are too indulged with routines of party politics and petty politics than listening to the voices of people. The Speaker said, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our Honourable Prime Minister for his pragmatic and unwavering global leadership in climate action. While our emissions are negligible, and despite being at the forefront of climate change, we already have the most ambitious targets when compared to developed and industrialized nations when it comes to climate change. Through his leadership, we are planning to put in a binding legal framework such as the Climate Change Act that will deliver our current and future commitments. Mr. Speaker said we are on our way to be the most competitive and socially inclusive, low-carbon economy in the region. And I commend our Honourable Prime Minister and our Minister of Climate Change, Honourable Syed Kayum, for leading us into this. Honourable Speaker said, since independence we have come a long way. In the last decade we've opened the vault of opportunities for our nation, opportunities that each Fijian will benefit from. Now is the time to make real promise of democracy. We've risen from the dark and bleak valley of exclusion into inclusive and equal societies. Now is the time to move as a nation in its own name as one of our greatest democratic societies. The Speaker said, I urge those who are still drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred to put away self and party interests, save all Fijians with dignity, discipline and respect. The Speaker said in recent months we have had our share of fake news. The social media post warning the Itoke community to stay at home on 23rd September is an example. Certain elements with political affiliation made these lurid threats with an intention to instigate fear amongst us. The Speaker said these toxic elements of society think they can hide behind the keyboards and sell their oxymoron fake news with intention to cause chaos. Little do they know that putting on a sheep's coat does not make this lecion's falsehood true. The Speaker said, with current digital transformation in our nation, many people have got access to social media platforms. While social media platforms have become increasingly ubiquitous presence in people's lives across the globe, hate speech, racism, fake news, and varied forms of bigotry have risen through the unpatriotic activities of some keyboard warriors, some of them in now and present here today. Mr. Speaker said these individuals use social media to spew hate, speech, racial tension, discrimination, and racial profiling, and sell intolerance and bigotry covered with fabric of patriotism. I ask these agents to stop and rather use social media to spread the news and opportunities available to Fijians for Fijians to better their lives through multiple government assistance programs. Mr. Speaker said, we all learn from our neighbouring countries in the Pacific Islands from small states of African region on how leaders who have placed their self-interest first have plunged their country in poverty, hardship and chaos. History has shown us what has happened in Rwanda in 1994 in the riots of Charlottesville, Virginia, when racism and bigotry are allowed to linger in society. The Speaker said, we as a nation cannot afford anything like that. As such, I humbly request the self-proclaimed agenda of chaos to put the future country above their political aspirations and serve on uniting this country than dividing it. The Speaker said, we have come a long way to let such ungodly thoughts undermine our dream for our nation's future and peace, prosperity, stability, and equality. We must heal the divisions caused by intolerance and bigotry. Mr. Speaker said, I still believe the best days are ahead and that our commonalities will prevail over differences. The Speaker said, let me now turn to the agriculture sector, and I would like to share some of the sentiments shared by His Excellency, as he very ably pointed out that the agriculture sector will remain an important and significant player in our national development and in government's effort to strengthen economic growth. The agriculture sector has put forward interventions on a holistic approach for management of food security and resilient food system, as this will be supported through an integrated framework. The Speaker said, for far too long we have treated agriculture from the welfare perspective. Whenever we argued for support for agriculture, we stated that it's important for the livelihood of our rural and maritime households. But I argue that we support agriculture in national interest. We support agriculture because it's a strategic and economic sector of the economy, which has enormous potential, is one which is within our control. I argue that we must support agriculture because of our other sectors to grow. Agriculture must grow because of its backward and forward linkages. In this process, we, government, must ensure that maximum people, stakeholders, and institutions are involved in the process of agriculture growth. In this way, the surplus created by the agriculture sector will be evenly shared across the country amongst these participants. Mr. Speaker said, then the livelihood issue will be taken care of in this process. As long as the household sector participates, either by provision of land, they will get rent, by provision of labor, they will get wages, by provision of capital, they will get returns, by provision of inputs or services, they will be paid a fair price from surpluses. This, Mr. Speaker said, explains how even distribution of surplus created will take place if you allow greater and wider participation of all stakeholders in the agriculture growth process. Mr. Speaker said, given the above framework, the strategy then is to push for a national wave of commercial agriculture. The previous model of family farm, led by family farmer, is no longer relevant now. Mr. Speaker said, you may then ask me, why is the previous model of family farms, which did so well then, is no longer relevant now? Mr. Speaker said, back then, farm sizes were large for semi-subsistence or commercial farming and surplus creation. B, farm household sizes were large, and they had enough family free labor, and additional labor required during peak times, such as planting and harvesting, were met by labor pooling amongst neighboring farm households, thus saving the entire labor cost. C, farmers were full-time farmers, given that farm was the only source of income for the farm household. Thus, surplus was created. Things are different now, Mr. Speaker said. Farm sizes have reduced over the years due to transfer to children across generations. B, family labor are no longer available as family sizes are small, and children are taking advantage of free education, opting for formal sector employment, thus making smallholder farming unit costs very high. C, aged farmers no longer see farm as their only source of income, but are supported by children working outside in the formal sector. Thus, agriculture are now led by a lot of part-time, pastime leisure farmers. They cannot be champions of modern agriculture system. Mr. Speaker said, we at the Ministry of Agriculture are committed to delivering on the collective aspirations of our people through a demand-driven, market signal-led and resilient agriculture sector which provides for economic opportunities, environmental sustainability and food and nutritional security for all Fijians. Mr. Speaker said, this will be achieved through the strategic priorities of food, nutrition, sustainable livelihoods, climate resilience, commercial agriculture and strengthened service delivery. Mr. Speaker said, we have started to implement several new initiatives to further our agriculture sector, and these include, the Speaker said, first and foremost, we are expanding the production base of our agriculture sector. Mr. Speaker, what do I mean by expanding the production base? The Speaker said, if you want to achieve a leapfrog with respect to growth of the agriculture sector, you need to first expand the base of the agriculture sector, and let me explain that in detail. We are increasing the number of medium and large livestock farms by providing fencing material and breeding stock, and establishing high protein content drought resistance and pasture on these farms. Over the last 12 months, we established these high protein drought tolerant pasture on 193 farms throughout Fiji, over the last 12 months. Over the next 3 weeks, planting of Kotaika will be delivered for another 220 farms in Fiji. Mr. Speaker, our Yangara pastoral farm under the Ministry of Public Enterprise has been turned around. It produced 96,000 kg of beef meat in 2015, and in this year, over the 9-month period, they have produced 156,000 kg of beef meat, and they're looking at surpassing 200,000 kg of beef meat by in this 12-month period. Mr. Speaker, entire Yangara pastoral farm has been turned around. They've established the largest cut and carry pasture, 25 acres, and the recent drought had no impact on them, Speaker said. We are bringing new land to expand the base of the agriculture sector. Mr. Speaker said we're bringing in new land under agriculture production via one of the new incentive package where a major announcement will be made soon. 4, we are making farm roads to access new land. We'll be making a major announcement soon on that. We are providing new infill drainage system to open up new land for agriculture, which was previously not seen as arable. And this is done in collaboration with Mr. Wurawes. We are loaning planting material with agreement for return supply of equivalent amount of planting material within 5 years, which will be provided to new farmers, so as further expanding the production of base agriculture. We are providing machinery at subsidized cost for land preparation. We are taking market to the farmer via agro-marketing authority and other places in the market. Mr. Speaker, to deal with the aging farmer problem, we are injecting young, trained commercial farmers into the sector. Just yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we held a half-day workshop for the first lot of 23 young commercial farmers who completed their 2-year training at Nabushu Agricultural College, and whom we are now taking over and training them. They are trained, they already have land available to them from the Matangali lease via TLTV. Ministry has got a YCF, a LC Prim package for them, which includes land clearing and preparation at our cost, provision of planting material at our cost, provision of farm road at our cost, provision of market to them. Mr. Speaker, every year, these students from Nabushu and another 20 from the FNU Certificate 3 in Commercial Agriculture program will be adopted by us, and we will be training them and these will become our ambassadors of young commercial agriculture farmers. Mr. Speaker, we are also working hard to attract corporate sector to enter into agriculture sector. Mr. Speaker, I met the Budroom Ginger Company operating out of business, who uses ginger to make ginger-based snacks and bricks and export worldwide. They've established a factory in Fiji and have contract with growers who supply ginger to them, and they import ginger and brine from Fiji to the Brisbane factory where it is further processed to develop snacks and drinks. At the moment, they alone import $10 million worth of ginger and brine per year from Fiji. Mr. Speaker, I've discussed with them a strategy to double this amount. Mr. Speaker, this is one of the models that we're exploring, where we have more of those, where the original company based in Australia, New Zealand, and US, and they establish a plant here, and then they contract out with growers to supply them with the basic primary product. Mr. Speaker, this evening I will be meeting another importer from Australia, the SSM International Pty Limited, who is importing frozen cassava from Fiji worth $0.5 million per month at the moment. Mr. Speaker, he has asked for Benga yellow cassava, which we are now expanding, and is willing to double that imports going forward. However, because we couldn't supply large volume of cassava processed as rice, he is sourcing that from Costa Rica, worth US $0.5 million per month. Mr. Speaker, we are looking at why can't we do that here, set up a plant to make cassava fries and export it to Australia and New Zealand. Mr. Speaker, this particular company has got contracts with Coles and Woolworths, therefore accessing the entire Australian consumers rather than just the former Fiji residents, Mr. Speaker, and that's what we want to do. Mr. Speaker, we're looking at a third corporate model that was proposed by Minister of Economy, is to attract external corporate firms to establish their own farms to address here. For example, Mr. Speaker, we have put this Evergreen Ginger Pty Limited, who has established a plant in Batuanga to process noni tea and noni juice, and are exporting $3 million per year worth of noni tea and noni juice to China, Mr. Speaker. Now we are looking at expanding that so that we can in 5 years' time, that company is looking at exporting $10 million worth of noni tea and noni juice. And imagine, Mr. Speaker, getting the Chinese market, the world's most populous country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, one of my tasks over the next 12 months will be to attract these kinds of investors to Fiji. By doing so, we will be outsourcing these basic liabilities of establishing plant, our own farmers and all those speakers say. The speaker say that's the future agriculture model that we are looking forward to, and that's the future, Mr. Speaker say. The future of the agriculture sector lies in corporate model. Mr. Speaker say, to better inform our investors. Order. Mr. Speaker say, I want to thank you, and I thank His Excellency the President for his most gracious speech. Thank you.